have been directed to that the first on the list should be a discussion on the need for Forensic Institute of Nigeria. So we want the discussants and all of us to explain why there is this need, how do we go about it, and what next do we do from here? Thank you. So maybe we'll start with you, Ma.
In the issue of the institute, I think it's a welcome development so that we have an inclusive forum where we can put our minds together, deliberate together, come as a strong front to meet up to all the necessary challenges that the analysts or the forensic experts have in their different fields. So it's a collaboration of all the different fields coming together, aligning together so that our voice can be heard. We have all said that the voice of the forensic is not really heard because we don't have a common body, a common platform where we can air our issues. So it's a welcome development if we can come together. We have different disciplines. Of course, everything is to synergize together to make the country better, to bring out the best in the justice system. So I think that from which angle we are coming in, we just need to work together as one.
The fact that when you talk about a national forensic institute, a national institute, it begins to talk about regulations. It begins to talk about government being part of what you do has to do with law. So we can do it and can do it better. Why do I say so? We need to form a committee that will write, because here is body of people who know forensics and body of people who know the law. So if we have a committee that will come up with deliberations and recommendations of how an institute or a regulatory body will work, they will be able to tell us how we can approach the government. So it will be that we have been able to go some distance in producing what we require or what an institute require, or how government should be involved, or what are the policies that should drive this objective. And if we do that through the committee, I will suggest that we should have, if at the end of this body we agree, then a committee will be raised that will pursue this course. Then we will see how this institute will be, or how our impact will get us to this goal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The panelists have spoken, and we're all in agreement that there is need for an institute that will probably regulate the practice of forensics in Nigeria. The second question is almost like the first one. The second question talks about the need for a national legislation on forensic. I think the national legislation on forensic, if you talk about legislation, I am sure there is a legislation that will give rise to the institute. So that is why I asked earlier, how do we go about it? So I don't know if maybe can we match the two, or how we're going to go about getting a national legislation on forensics?
If you read um, the lines between what I said, I talked about making some recommendation, people coming up with some policies or guidelines on how we are going to, because it's about the law. Because when I started, I said it's about the forensic practitioners and the government. You are bringing the government in, so we have to drive it. The government do not know those things. It's us that will sit and make derivations, make write-ups, recommendations. So, and that's why I'm looking at having people delegated, having a committee in that regard. Thank you.
Okay. An institute will only be existent to the extent to that it's legal, to the extent to which is instituted by law. Right? So if that is the case, then it means there has to be a legislature that establishes the institute. At that premise, then things will begin to evolve. So there's a need for that legislation, which is in line with what he's saying. That primarily, organization like the AFON would drive that kind of movement. Then the government will appreciate the relevance and the importance and will legislate on it. After when the legislation is done, then the organization is established to drive the process of the provisions of that legislation. Then thereafter, it will continue to evolve as time progresses. Thank you.
Okay, well, just as you've rightly said, for us to have an institution, there must be a law that would establish that institution. That is one. And then secondly, the institution should have guiding documents. So you have the documents that would guide the practice itself. So one, you have a document for establishing, and then the other one, document a legislation that guides the practice of forensics itself in the country. So, and just as we were discussing with Madam, she mentioned to me that there's a forensic institute. Maybe she'll talk more about that. So, but then we don't want pocket of institutions here and there. We want a unifying body that everybody would have a sense of belonging. Not that the medical practitioners would have their own, other aspects would have their own, and then everybody's holding onto their own association. But we want, even though they have that separately, we should have a body that now coordinates all of the practices, just like the NSA coordinates law enforcement and security in Nigeria. So we have a body like that that would have members drawn from all of the aspects of forensics. So you have from medicine, you have from digital, you have from fingerprint, you have from the judiciary as members, you have from law enforcement, all of the law enforcement and security agencies, you have representative on that board. So it could be domicile under the presidency, not because we need to have a neutral platform so that nobody will lay claim to it, because I know those are some of the challenges we have in this country. Some would begin to lay claims to it. So we have a neutral platform where everybody comes together and we deliberate about issues that will bring about the growth of the practice in Nigeria. So maybe, Madam, you tell us more about.
When I joined the service, I had to spend like 5 years thereabout in the forensic lab Ushodi for my training. That was in the early 90s, and that's of course the first accredited forensic lab in Nigeria. So apparently it's been upgraded to an institute now, so with different departments and all that. But I like when I was coming here, my first thought was, okay, there's an institute here. AFCON is there, I know them, and I couldn't see their presence is not here. I know some other forensic analysts and accredited ones, but they are not here. So I know that there are different bodies now. But like what we're saying, that we can't just these separate portions we have cannot walk this talk. So we need to find a way to bring everybody together. Then we have that committee or something to bring from each of these parts, and let's come together and create, a committee that can have that singular voice that will say, okay, this is how we've looked at all these different bodies, but we can't just, it won't work. Divided, we can't stand. So let's come together, collaborate together, and let's see where we can and have a single front now, where each of these affiliates are part of the institute. And I think that would be better. Thank God, NSA, I think they've just started their labs. I had to have, I was told to write some things concerning their lab. So they are trying to bring up some labs as well. They have the fingerprint, they have the DNA, they have the drug, they have almost like 4. So I think that, of course, since they are already planning, or already in the stage of creating their own labs, they've gotten people in there. So we can bring them in. They too, because they are inside, they are already into forensic now. They will buy this, and also they will come together with them, and let's see how we can regulate. So the committee or the platform, if we want to say, okay, APCON should be the platform, then we need to reach out to all the other different bodies. Thank you.
Yes, we need to reach out to other different bodies. Somebody was raising his hand from the audience. Okay.
I just want to add a little thing. Yes, my name is Dr. Oji. Yes, I'm a lawyer. I don't know if I can stand up or sit down. Okay, I can sit down. Thank you. I want to just make an input. Before an institute is established, there must be a legislation. And what do I mean by legislation? There must be an act. Let me use, for example, the EFCC, which means Economic and Financial Crisis Commission. Before it was established in the year 2004, though ICPC was established 2000 by an act called ICPC Act, before EFCC was birthed in 2004 by an act called EFCC Act. Having passed that legislation, which was formerly a bill enacted and passed before it became an act of the National Assembly, thereby establishing it to be a lawful establishment, no longer under any other agency like NFIU, which was formerly under Central Bank of Nigeria, but before the enaction of NFIU Act. The Forensic Institute, before a forensic institute should be or will be established, there's supposed to be an act. And how do we start? As suggested by the president of AFCON, I think what we should do is to set up a committee. The committee's task should be to come up with a bill, a draft bill, not an act, a draft bill. Then thereafter lobby the National Assembly, that is the legislature, the representatives, lobby them. But we must have a moving bill, a bill that will be convincing, a very strong bill that when even a blind person go through it, he will know that yes, this should be established, this should be given attention to, this should be attended to. Then we take it off from there. We lobby them, pass it, it becomes an act sent to sent to Mr. President for assent. I think we should take it off from the aspect of a bill before we talk of establishing an institute. Let me also tell you that we have Chartered Institute of Forensic and Certified Fraud Investigators of Nigeria. It's also, these are not an institute. Rather, it's a professional association established to provide what we call machinery for training, supervision, and regulation of forensic or forensic accounting. It's not an institute per se. But some people may look at it as an institute. We have institute of this. I can personally call it a pocket institute because they are not being regulated by, in fact, there is no act that establishes it. So we must go first for the act. We should come up with a bill. Then the National Assembly pass it. Thereafter, that is to follows with the act that will establish it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we have all agreed that there is need for a national institute. We have equally agreed that we are going to find a way to get a legislation that will lead to the establishment of the institute. And to do that, there is need to draft a moving bill, like he stated. And the president have earlier said that there is need for a committee that will drive this work. So I want to say that we have all agreed that there will be a committee that will champion this. And with the permission of the president, I think maybe after the conference, circular will be circulated to those that will be involved in doing that. Okay, having said that, I feel that it is during that bill that we will equally look at need for the national DNA lab. That will help to cover that. So the next question I would want us to look at is, we'll match these two. Need for specialization in an area of forensics and inadequate training for officers. I want us to take the two of them together. We'll take them together, and we need to watch time while we speak. Thank you.
From what I've heard about people's profile here, we have the capacity here. We have the requisite knowledge to train in-house. It's not just looking abroad. Look at Mr. Godfrey. Look at all the people here that have spoken today. So I think, like what Mr. Godfrey said, let's build standard curriculum in our different bodies, particularly in-house. We have people that we can call, and they can be people that already, for me, they're already like consultants. They've gotten all the requisite training, both home and abroad, so they can stand out. And I've gone for trainings abroad. At times, it's like you even know better. The only thing is that they have the equipment and some of the things you don't have. But if it comes to the nitty-gritty, you already know it. So I think that one way forward for us as analysts of forensics is to develop in-house. Like the EFCC guy, Mr. Dijan, said that the madam said, blow your trumpet. Let people know what you carry. So let's go develop this curriculum. In-house. Let's develop where we need external bodies, and we can always reach out. That's why this platform is good for networking, so that we are not void of knowledge. I also think that that's another issue another issue of training is that, of course, training can be expensive to get foreign trainings. But if we can collaborate with external bodies as well and get technical partners, for us as an agency, we don't have the money to always sponsor people for training, but somehow UNODC has been able to help us, to develop in-house training, build up capacity of our officers. So we've had that leverage and also work with the DA and the INL. So a lot of other stakeholders have been involved in the training. So we can find a way to bring them in. We don't need to even take them out. They can come here. Aside some of these bodies support us with equipment. So I think it's something that we can open up. But let's develop, like he said in his session, that curriculum that we can develop is very, very important. For the DNA lab, I mean, it's something that we just have to do. But I know that some agencies have well-structured DNA laboratories. It's just that we don't look inwards. We kind of look outside, but some of these things we can, we can build on it instead of always looking outside. Most time we don't even appreciate what we have inside. So I think that with the EFCC, I think they have the DNA lab. Some of other agencies, the forensic have it. They've been doing DNA for long, right from 1991. I know paternity disputes have been taken. The police force was using them. The police even had a DNA lab one time. So I don't know the state of some of these labs, but I know that even the forensic Oshodi has upgraded now. So I think that it's something, of course, we can also come together and say, okay, you have data here, you have this. How do we have a common front? Thank you.
Yes, on the issue of specialization and inadequate training, and also I'll talk briefly on this DNA, just as Madam has said. I don't think it's necessary that we replicate labs all over. Forensics is quite expensive, particularly DNA. Those that are into that field, they know how expensive the equipment are. So we have a number of them in the country, and that also bring back home the issue of establishing that forensic institute that would have a voice and say that, look, we cannot have these institutions spread all over the country. We can improve on the existing ones, provide the right equipment, and then the right training. The military has. There's one in Lagos. That's the Lagos State government has. Then the institute you talked about. And yesterday, the military talked about it, and I know there are a few of them out there. So there's need to just improve on what we have in that area because of the cost implication. So we don't need to replicate all of that. And generally, that is how forensics is supposed to be. If one agency is strong in one area, if it is government, then it should be supported, to build capacity. So in that way, that would also help. In terms of area of specialization, just as Professor Tanko, his presentation yesterday, it's very important that we identify our strength, our passion, and then our background. I have seen people who probably studied accounting and they want to be forensic document examiners without basic knowledge in science. It's impossible. Science, times have changed. It's not like graphology. Someone talked about the military. I think they spoke about fields of forensics, and they mentioned graphology and forensic document examination. I don't know if there's that understanding what graphology is. Graphologists are people that will study your palm, from your palm, and they can tell your age or sex, they can tell your future. That has no scientific basis. So it's important to also understand, forensics is not just folk law or anything. It's something that has scientific basis. So it must meet, every field of science must meet the basic requirement of forensic standards. The requirement of general acceptability in the community, admissibility, repeatability, reproducibility of evidence, and all of that. So you must be able to show repeatedly that these methodologies you've used would produce similar results over time. So that is a proof for forensics. So, and that is, it also brings about this issue of quackery. So if we don't take this thing serious, we'll begin to have people who would claim that they are experts in certain fields while they are not. And they begin to, deceive the public. So it's very important. And also, I will also talk a little about awareness. When you have the right training, the right education, then that also helps in creating awareness. Professor Tanko also tried to discourage having forensics at the institutions, tertiary institutions. To me, I think I differ a bit. India, they have a university dedicated to forensics, the University of Forensics, Gujarat. We have in other countries, South Korea, they have the National Forensic Institute, and they have universities that provide purely forensic science education. Now, that gives a basic foundation for people who are interested in forensics. But forensics is beyond just the classroom. There's the practical aspect of it, which means that you have to undergo internship and then mentorship programs under trained and qualified experts, and then accredited laboratories. So you don't just learn forensics within 4 walls of a building that has not been accredited. If we go abroad, for you to maintain your license is something else. ISO certification, ISO accreditation, and all of that. Some countries, if you don't have it, if you miss any of the requirements, you'll be suspended. So we need to begin to build, a capacity to that level. We have lawyers here that will challenge us in court. If your certificate is not up to date, it should be challenged. So these are the issues. So training is very, very key. What are the avenues of training? Like this meeting, it's part of training. Abroad, it accrues to your points, your credit points. So we need to begin to develop to that level too, that as you attend a conference, then your credit points are being accumulating. I know the National Hospital, my wife works at the lab there, and once they attend conferences or workshops, they have that added to them as a credit unit. So we need to develop this practice to that level. In terms of funding, government alone cannot do it at all. Forensics is quite expensive. So we need to begin to, if we show capacity in what we're doing, we will begin to attract foreign investors. Nigeria is a huge, has huge resources, and then the forensics is untapped here with a lot of crimes and all of that. I'm sure if we open up and then we begin to, we'll have foreign investors who would invest, and then grants. We provide grants for research. Research is very key also in forensic studies. So we need, like Dr. Kuchit yesterday, he told me that they got a grant and open up, they established a molecular biology lab at the University of Jos, funded their grant, not government. The university could not do that. But as individuals, as the scientists, because they have passion, they sought for those grants and they got them and they were able to establish. He had the option to remain abroad, but he said no, he has to come back to his home country. Someone challenged him that, why have you not left with all of the issues in Nigeria? He said, if I had left, we wouldn't have this research institute. So that is the point that we need to begin to look at. Thank you. I think I would.
Okay, I would want us to move a little bit further to another question again. Even though while answering the question for the two discussants, you can bring in your opinion on the two that has been spoken about. The next question is lack of coordination and responsive collaboration among relevant agencies and bodies. So while we are discussing that, we'll equally look at the need to enforce standards in all areas of forensics. So I feel that this one has been talked about. So we'll just discuss lack of coordination We'll discuss lack of coordination and lack of awareness and effective creation of awareness. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. You've touched on a number of items, and I'll just address them to the extent to which I remember. So collaboration. Now, in most of the conferences I have attended and I've had the privilege to present paper, it has been a thing of concern for agencies to collaborate. And I mean, practically, I belong to an agency, so we've seen the need to collaborate. The reason is because, like it's been said earlier, forensic is really expensive, and it may not be possible for a single agency to build capacity to cover all her relevant operations. Do you understand? So if we have an effective collaboration, this agency can say, okay, let me build capacity in this area. You build capacity, and our agency build capacity in the area. If we have a need of your facility, then we should have our access to it. That makes it quite effective. So we don't need to build capacity in all of the areas, but identify very critical, 1, 2, 3 critical area, build capacity in that area. And if the police need, can come to the EFCC and say, okay, we need your digital forensic, help us with this, then you know that handshake, that relationship is very critical. You understand? So we cannot overemphasize that. I have also made presentation with regards to forensic and relating to intelligence. If we finish doing this forensic investigation, does it end at that? You have collected data, and that data has established certain facts. But beyond that fact, there are other facts that are related to what you have done that can help us in further investigation in the future. Do you understand? So if we have that collaboration, and incidentally this agency is doing something, you can come back to me. I can go back to my archives to go and look at data of cases I have done. Maybe a mobile phone relating to a man who have been implicated in drug trafficking. And now I can get him, and I say, look, yes, sometimes ago we did a case on him relating to his mobile phone, which was OBT or 419. We can now look at his data and identify people who are even associates, members of the syndicate. And we can expand that investigation from the intelligence that is aiding an existing investigation. So there's so much that we can derive from that collaboration that time will fail us to really talk about. So it's there. And how will it work? It will work because interagencies will begin to have confidence on one another. The problem most times is that this agency doesn't have trust what this agency is doing. And part of that problem is also because there is no institution that regulates what all of the institution is doing. If we have a central regulatory agency that stipulates what the standard should be, what the competency, proficiency should be, and this man is said to have gone through that process, agency A can have the confidence that if this man has gone through this training, then he has the right competency to be able to do this for us and all of that. So it's quite there's quite so much to talk about it. For want of time, I want to stop there and give the mic.
Okay, in order to add my voice to what have been said, because they are well said, it's the issue they talked about the training, because one way we can improve the system, the issue of quackery or competence of forensic experts, the knowledge. We've also looked inward and in line with what Madam said, we have we can get the knowledge locally from different organizations. Individuals have been trained in different fields. So if we all come out, one of the speakers says, you need to blow your trumpet, even though he didn't blow my trumpet. He called everybody and named what their experiences. He never named my experiences. So we can have the trainings here. And in that, what I'm trying to paint is that the association wants to begin to improve the competence of individuals. Yes, we have you can't compare a 2-year experience with a 10-year experience. My experience in forensics is about 16 years before I left. I've left the lab. I've gone back to investigation, but forensics is part of me. If you go to my car, I have forensic tools. So we want to commence enhancement training in different categories. I had my first training, fingerprint and crime scene investigations. Later, that's why again I beg to differ concerning when some people say major in one aspect. I didn't major in one aspect. I went into later bloodstains analysis, spatter analysis. Subsequently, when I schooled in Cambridge, I learned fire investigation. So that again is another field I'm doing. Because surprisingly, you see some of the services are involved in this. I had a fire incident in my place, and I went to the police. They can't investigate the fire. And I went to the other agency. They can't investigate the fire. But I had the pictures. When I came back from, what happened? When I get my knowledge in fire arson, I had to study the fire. I was able to understand where the point of where the fire started and why the movement of the fire was slowed down and why it shifted. Because you will see how the fire moved and you'll be able to know why and all the whys in it. What I'm saying in effect is, yes, in word we can actually do it. And we can't do it on our own. So the association will be coming up with its curriculum, both for those who are freshers, both for those who are at the different stages. And we welcome questions. The Sharon managing our social media often say she send message and people will not go through. We are forensic experts. We are researchers. Then we should always go to our mail. We should always go to, so that we'll be able to communicate to ourselves. You write me, I say what I know. It's all about networking. If we cannot network, if we cannot collaborate, because you're talking about collaboration, it's not when you write the EFCC, that is collaboration, or the Nigerian police, that is collaboration, or no, collaboration is between me and you. One of my mentors says, I could write to correctional service and that letter is supposed to take 1 month. But if I have somebody there, I will just send him a copy of my letter. And I said I wrote, and he will follow through. In 1 week, it is done. So collaboration is beyond the letter. It's about the very network which we establish among ourselves. It helps to make whatever we are doing stronger. Thank you.
Sorry, please. If you just permit me to just add up something you just said, which has already been said before, is that we need to appreciate the fact that forensic is a body of knowledge. By virtue of that, a lot needs to be done in terms of research. And for people who might be interested, one of the things that need to be researched is that why is forensic investigation not working so effectively as it should be in Nigeria? Do you understand? Because by the time we put all of these things together, that will help us to grow in terms of the knowledge. Why is public awareness even very minimal and all of that? Then, like it was also said, then we can also attract grants for further research in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, just to what the president said, yeah, even though he said that we are not trying to discourage people from diversifying, but it's not diversification in per se. If you look at the fields that he has ventured in, they are closely related. They are about crime scene, blood spatter, fingerprint, fire. It's about crime scene. So he hasn't really gone out of his cycle. But someone who had studied accounting and he wants to be an expert in fingerprints, no. But we see that happen in this country. So, well, let me not dwell much on that. So, yes, like I have interest in digital forensics. As a document examiner, it's not out of place. You can see that technology is taking away paper gradually. And as document examiners, we're beginning to look at imagery. You understand? So, why not? So, but you have to look at a field that is closely related. DNA, and you're looking at, I'm sure if you're looking at DNA, you have a background in chemistry or biochemistry. So you're looking at other aspects in entomology. The guy spoke about forensic entomology. So those are closely related fields. So on the issue of collaboration, just as I said, we need to begin to look at a multifaceted approach to forensics. I think he mentioned that quite a bit. You're investigating a case, a murder case. To crack that case effectively, it will take a number of forensic science fields. You have the blood spatter, you have DNA, you have question document, you have ballistics, you have digital, just to investigate one case. Professor Tanko mentioned 16 million pounds. It's a lot in all of those fields. You don't just crack a case with one aspect of forensics, no. But sometimes we want to do it that way here, no. So that is part of the collaboration. Another thing, we have not been talking about the private sector. And I'm sure we have a lot of them here, from the private sector. How do we engage them? Particularly in a country where, as a private practitioner, can you go to a crime scene? Can you manage a crime scene? No. Can you have access to the database, government database? No. So that is why we need to institutionalize forensics in Nigeria. We need that forensic institute that would give that coordinated approach to what we do. So that once, as a private examiner, you need information, you know the route to take to get that information. In the UK and other developed climes, you have private investigators. In the UK, they studied in the UK. I've had some courses in the UK. Forensics is no more a government business because it's quite expensive. So now it is in the hands of the private practitioners, but they have the government regulating. They have a few aspects like crime scene, you can't take it away from government because it's a police responsibility to manage the crime scene. But there are protocols that you would follow to get access to information and to data. The police would supply you the fingerprint, the Latin prints from the field. Crime scene officers would have managed the crime scene and then they pick all of that evidence and then if they need to engage a private lab, they do that. They supply them the already processed evidence and then for them to now do the analysis. So that is the kind of collaboration that we should be seeing in the near future, but only if we take this business very, very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam, I would want you to just speak a little bit on the issue of awareness creation. Yes.
Okay. We've been going on and on about awareness. Like this conference is part of creating an awareness for the forensics. So I think maybe next year, let's publicize it the more. Let people know that we have, I didn't even know that, I hear a lot of associations, but I've not really been a part because I'm seeing so many and but let's publicize our activities. It will help through this platform, through the association. If it did value because of our own kind of restrictions in our different agencies, it's not easy for us to just speak out like that, but we can have a voice through the association or through maybe later if we are able to send a bill, then we have the institute. It will really project stronger the forensic activities in Nigeria. But individually, like I said, collaborating is another way of creating awareness where we are linking with one another and we are going for the different conferences, we are speaking out, we are making ourselves known, and all that. And again, our depending on where we work, You know, when you work in a setup like where you have more of investigators, those in the crime scene, it's as if, I mean, they're the ones making the arrest. So they're the ones blowing more of the trumpets, that they're the ones catching the bad people. Then you that is in the lab, you are just like, you are not doing anything. But it's wrong, because you are the one that provides the evidence that they need to go to court and prosecute. Without you bringing out that evidence, then there's no case. So I think that management in our different must know our, or must know what our, must know our worth. We must make sure that the agencies we work, that value is being placed highly on the forensic. So in our different agencies, let's speak out. Let's not be quiet and say forensic, you are just in the lab, you don't have anything to offer again. No, we have a lot to offer in the system. Like in the agency, we're just a unit before, but now we've been upgraded to a directorate. That is bringing us up. You know, we are involved more in the advocacy, management policies and all that. So we are having a stronger voice both within and internationally. Before, we're just a unit under investigation and nobody was hearing us, but now we are out there. So I think that in our different agencies, let's speak out. It's not just the investigators alone, the analysts in the lab is bringing as much to the agency to achieve that success or that mandate of the agency. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know if we'll have any contribution from the floor. Any contribution? If there is no further contribution,
I think we need to contribute on all of these issues, please. And just as we said, we need to create committees, you know. We have to have a way forward.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Ambassador Abraham Kwafan from Forensic Guards Nigeria, Forensic Ambassadors Africa. I want to first and foremost ask one question. Thereafter, I will contribute on the issue of awareness. I want to still ask, though speakers have been able to touch it in one way or the other, but I want to ask, what is the security agencies doing in respect to synergy concerning crime fighting? Because I want to talk about it a little. Maybe there's a case of a theft here, and in FCTA, I think we were told that there are cameras, CCTV cameras everywhere. And yet, we cannot be able to confidently say this is what is happening. So if the police doesn't have a good coverage of this, EFCC should have, NDLA should have, because they're all security agencies. They should be able to synergize and come up with this thing. Take, for instance, the issue of jailbreak in Kuje. Just my house just behind it. A lot has happened over 4 hours. This thing happened. No security agencies appear until in the morning. We now start seeing helicopters coming in and all of that. So I think at the end of the day, I don't know how the matter died up, but then I think if there's a proper synergy among the security agencies, that kind of thing should not just happen and go that way. That is one. Then number two, I want to talk about crime scene, for instance, the issue of awareness. In a situation whereby there is a crime scene and the experts are not there, what happened? Because in all your discussion here is security agencies, security agencies, security agencies. And if there is an issue, security agencies are not there, what happened? The experts, they are not there, what happened? How do you handle it? Because at the end of the day, you may end up getting the evidences of wrong persons. Because maybe somebody saw somebody struggling on the floor and he want to help. He now went and picked the person up. So maybe the fingerprint or the footprint you may eventually pick may be of that person who was trying to assist. So what can we do to improve on this? From our organization, Forensic Guards Nigeria and Forensic Ambassadors Africa, basically what we do is to sensitize people and then train them, encourage them to join the professional bodies. I want to believe even here we have more than 5 of those ambassadors. We call them ambassadors because they are representing forensic wherever there is an issue. so that by the time the experts come, the first person to answer them should be those ambassadors at that particular time. And we have a seminar in Ghana just last month, and I was just sharing with somebody. The Deputy Controller General of Immigration, after we have engaged them in the technical session, and we try to prove to them that they are not doing enough, he said he wants to prove to us that they are doing enough. They just need the cooperation of other agencies to build on it. And we entered their how do they call it, the lab, not lab, their showroom where they show all the this happening in Ghana. Virtually every border in Ghana, they watch what is happening at that border in that office. So there's nothing like when you bring a case and then they will tell you it happened, it didn't happen. They will just go there straight and view the full step and then tell you what happened. So I think Nigeria is far bigger than Ghana. In terms of resources, we are bigger than them. Can't we have something better than this? I think if the security agencies join forces together, we can do better than where we are. And then finally, I must commend the president of the association. On several occasions, we call him for sensitization with little time, and he must answer. If he cannot come himself, he will send somebody. Just last week, he delegated this able officer here to represent him in Port Harcourt, where we graduated some of our students. So I think if you have that kind of synergy, the private sector will be motivated, and we know that what we are doing is not the wrong thing, and then we'll have people backing us up to encourage others, and the job will be easier. Finally, the communique from this program should go around to all the offices that matters in Nigeria. In so doing, you'll be reducing their work, because just like she said yesterday, they have a little of what they can say in terms of decision making, because by the time they take the decision, they will not even be there. But if the communique go around, it will help. They will know that this is what the forensic body has resolved in Nigeria, and it will be of help. The last this thing, I think we keep saying forensic is expensive, but sometimes we're also making it expensive. I was just sharing with the president, one of the institutions that just came on board, the federal government just approved their bill. They'll have a seminar of one day and charge you 650,000 naira. Now, if you're a civil servant, how much is your salary? How do you now get that money to get the license? So I think something should be done. Something, if you want this thing to grow, just imagine you are telling a barrister who has maybe not seen 500,000 before to go and pay 650,000. No, I'm not insulting. I'm just trying to, I think something should be done on this. If we want the forensic to grow, we must be able to follow the right steps. Because if you don't do that, they may end up selling the certificates to the wrong persons. Now the highest bidder have the money. You have the money, you go and buy the forensic certificate. And then whatever happened is none of your business. I have paid for it. I think the body should be able to communicate them if possible. Something should be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The communique should go to, and I think I support him, that at the end of this conference, the communique should be forwarded to the chairman, chief executive of every agency, even those that did not participate. As long as they have a forensic lab, the communique should get to them. It is a way of the awareness and a way of eliciting them to do something more for forensic.
The first thing people should do begs for the question of awareness. It begs for the question of awareness that the public need to be adequately informed as to the relevance of forensic in an incident in the crime scene. Okay? Having said that, the first thing people should do is that they should save life first of all, above all. If somebody's life is at stake in a crime scene, irrespective of any other thing, they should make attempt to save life. Thereafter, they should call the police. Thank you.
My name is Nachi Yuokoro. I'm a legal practitioner in the MBA. My question, I wanted to ask it at the time you made your you delivered your this keynote, your address. The question is, with the ever-growing or increase in crime in the society and the exclusiveness of the security agents like the police in handling forensic at the scene of crime or crime scene, and also with the increasing number of crime in this country, especially cyber crime, which is all increasing every day. Do you think without any legislation enabling individuals partaking fully into investigation, into forensic investigation of crimes at the scene of crime, do you think Nigeria will get it right even in the next 20 years? Then the other is that I will be making a kind of suggestion that this body have a very discreet and well concerted effort in placing a bill to the National Assembly that will enable forensic experts or personnel to conduct independent investigations which will be acceptable to public institutions. Then again, what will this association do better? What will we do to bridge the gulf between public institutions and private institutions that are involved in forensic investigation? Thank you very much.
Okay, I'd like to say the last question that you asked, I think the president will address that. But let me start the second to the last question that you talked about. So it has to do with the confidence that the government institutions have on the private sector. And that is where regulation would play a role. So if I come to you and I say I went to law school, okay, and I graduated from law school, and I have an evidence to show you I graduated, primarily it builds some level of confidence that I have gone through an institution and I know the ethics of the practice. Is that correct? So it gives you that level of confidence to relate with me under that platform, under that auspices. If I claim ordinarily and you have nothing to hold on to, then you're going to be a bit skeptical about my competency in delivering the services and meeting your expectation. So we need that's why we're talking about having an institute that provides for both the government forensic investigation and private forensic investigation, because it's going to be all encompassing. Both private and government institutions will be regulated in terms of their competency, in terms of their procedure, in terms of equipment, in terms of everything that has to do with that process. Well, once any institution conforms with the provisions of that regulation, then we can read it. Then I can go to court and say that I have been certified because I am now operating under the auspices of an institution that is recognized by law, and I have met the requisite requirements to practice. That confidence, we can all have it. We don't have that platform. That's where the problem is. So if this is institution A do an investigation, institution B will say we don't trust their competency because there's nothing that brings us together and puts us apart. That's the that's part of the problem. So that's why that institution is very, very critical. For example, you've attended this conference. How many CPE are you going to acquire? Can I take that CPE to court and say, by virtue of attending this conference, I was entitled to 6 CPE, continuous professional education? There's no regulation that does that evaluation to look at the content of this conference and accredit it and assign to it a credit unit. So that wherever I go in the world, I can say by virtue of attending this conference, I'm entitled to 6 units of continuous professional education. So this is where the institute will play a role. Then the first one you talked about was regards, so there's nothing anywhere I'm aware in the world that any organization, any government would do to completely eradicate crime. However, I have been in certain fora where discussion around the purification of cybercrime has been discussed. And my recommendation is this. There are research papers published, accepted by credible journals, publishers, regarding cybercrime in Nigeria. For any institution that is committed to the cause of mitigating, preventing cybercrime, we need to go and look at those papers, harmonize them, and identify the primary motivations for cybercrime, and adequately make recommendations to government. I have done a research. One or two of my papers are online. During our interview, we found out that one of the things that those who are involved in cybercrime are saying is that they don't have access to national cake. Their own cake is to defraud anybody that they're vulnerable to them and have a bite of the national cake. This is one. This is coming from those who are perpetrators of the crime to say we don't have access, which means the politicians have access to national cake. We don't have access. Where we have access, we exploit it. So the question is, what is government doing in this regard? This is one. Two, some of them also have the notion that the white people who are usually the victim of cyber crimes came to Nigeria and exploited us. So they are repatriating the fund they stole. This is their notion. This is their ideology. How do we address those ideology? We need to have a framework. We need to have a program to address all of these things. If we don't have those programs in place, then it's going to continue. The first person that I investigated and went to prison was a child from a broken home who was fending for himself. What is the government doing with regards to providing social security, welfare for people who are vulnerable in our society? Because if I have to live and eat, my parents are not there, my mother is not there, and I don't have the opportunity to even work or do anything. I schooled in the UK, my master's. If I need money this weekend, I will continue to work from today. I will continue to work from Monday till Thursday, because I know that by working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm going to make money. If I want to go and enjoy, I already have money. Somebody, a young man here who wants to enjoy, where does he go to work? Because he's not working in any government parastatal. There's no private organization that can call him and say, we are doing block, we are laying block. Come and work with us. There are no agencies that allows you, for people who have strength, to even do work, to get money to even eat. It's not there readily. So these are some of the challenges. Part of the problem is also the security problem we have. In UK, for example, people work overnight. If you are a printing press company, why will you close at night? Why will you close at night? So some people will work in the morning, some people will work at night. So it provides for people who are not working at the morning, can work at night, and in the morning they can be resting. That is a problem here, because if you're working at night, even you who is a legitimate work, you're working at night, you're even at risk. Talk less of say you're going to work at night. Either your handbag or one thing will get lost. So government has to show commitment, and it's all encompassing. It's all encompassing. And there are quite things that I think that we have started the discussion, and I'm sure that from there we can go further. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think we have really tried. If I'm permitted, I would like us to clap for the discussants and why they gradually come back to the... I think there is need for them to have a photograph.